Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and if you guys have been watching my channel for a little bit, you guys should know that I'm a big fan of both the Blue Flare as well as the Dark Knight slash Twilight archetypes in the Digimon card game. They're both kind of like the lesser known and kind of less good versions of the Digicross kind of mechanic that got released in BT10. Obviously Cross Heart's really popular with it, as well as Hunters as recently as this last set, but I've been enjoying these. I've been having them pretty much sleeved up since release, and they've been really cool. They're, Blue Flare I think has been getting a little bit more popular lately. GreyKnightsmon has been getting a little bit more popular, but for the wrong reasons, I'll say. But to have EX04 coming out in 1 week, or just about 1 week from now, and being able to have like an official not only support for both these archetypes, but have support for both of them kind of combined and have like some overlap, I think is really, really neat. So we're going to go over pretty much all the new cards that both these archetypes get in EX4, and then we're going to have 3 example deck lists at the end. We're going to have a Blue Flare, a Dark Knight Twilight, as well as a kind of combined deck list as well. So let's just jump on into it with kind of the new low end. And good for Blue Flare, bad for maybe Twilight is that the new low end is blue, which is a little bit tough for again the Twilight version of it, but it's pretty good for it. So it's Missimon. On deletion, if you have a Digimon in play, you get to draw a card. And also Gausmon, your turn, once per turn, when a Digimon with Blue Flare in its trait is played, draw 1. When you play a card with Twilight in its traits, return 1 card with Digicross requirements from your trash to your hand. So obviously the other Missimon works really well with the other Gausmon that we'll see in a little bit, where it plays something from your hand, and then Missimon can say, oh look, there's something in play, so I get to draw another card. So kind of okay with that. Just honestly having another rookie that has the Blue Flare type also is really helpful for the archetype in general. Again, is blue on the bottom end, which is a little bit rough for the Twilight side, because it just means like you're kind of alienating some of the older support for it, but it's what it is there. And then going just kind of into the new Blue Flare line, it's pretty much the Greymon, Mailbird, and Metal Grey got its new line, which is obviously kind of like the better kind of Digicross part of this deck anyways. But the new Greymon is a 4 cost, it is a 4K, it Digivolves for 3 on top of blue or black, which is nice. And on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 Kuriha, and 1 blue or black card with Digicross requirements among them from your hand, and then trash the rest. And it does have save. It also has inheritable. When attacking, you get to draw a card, which is quite nice. And then also we have Mailbird on play when one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level, or on play one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level gains. When attacking, lose 2 memory until the end of your opponent's turn. So kind of like a mini version of like Ice Wall, which is nice on an on play. Has save as well as an inheritable of jamming, which is also pretty solid, especially for if you're going kind of like more aggressive with your Metal Greys. So and biggest thing like support for a lot of archetypes is just having like 2 different copies of the card that you really need in the same slot. Like just the fact that we now have 2 blue Greymons that are Blue Flare is fantastic. Now that we have 2 male Birdramons that are both Blue Flare and have Twilight, and it means that this deck can just be more consistent on like the better line anyways, which is really nice. We also do have the new Metal Greymon, which pretty much like it's very similar to the old one. It's a 7 cost, and then for 2 Digicross for -2 for a blue Greymon, specifically blue. They're trying to make sure we don't get any turn 2 kills anymore. And Male Birdramon. So on play, this gains Rush for the turn. Then if Digicrossing, choose 2 Digivolution cards under one of your opponent's Digimon and trash them. So that source removal is kind of obnoxious sometimes, which is nice, and then kind of helps you get your some of your inheritables going from there. Like especially with like the old Male Birdramon, it's helpful for that as well. And then also material save for 2, so you get to save both these pieces. And when attacking as an inheritable, which is again for like the dual archetype, is if this Digimon is GreyKnightsmon, one of your opponent's Digimon with 3 or less Digivolution cards can attack until the end of your opponent's turn. So that's kind of nice there too. So I think that is a solid card. And so right, again, just having another card with Male Greymon is nice. Just for naming conventions and consistency, having all these cards just exist, even if they were vanillas, would have been great for it. So, and they have great effects too. And kind of like in the same vein too, we do have the new Twilight line. We do have a lot of Skull Knightmons and Deadly Axemon, but not all of them actually have the Twilight trait, which is kind of awkward at times. But again, having all these pieces all together now is great. So both of them are 4 cost, and they both Digivolve for 3 on top of either black or blue level 3. The Skull Knightmon says on play, if you don't have a Nene card in play, you can play one from your hand without paying its memory cost. And then also on deletion, reveal the top card of your deck. If that has Blue Flare or Twilights in its traits, you get to add 1 card, or add it to your hand, and you get to trash the rest. So you can pretty much get some draws, and you will see in a moment like most cards that we can get in these decks nowadays can have both these traits, which means you almost always get a draw, which is really nice. As inheritable, we get Reboot, which can be solid too. We also have Deadly Axemon on play. By trashing one card with Blue Flare or Twilight and its traits from your hand, you get to draw 2. And on deletion, reveal the top card of your deck. If that has Blue Flare or Twilight, you get to add it from your trash, or you got to add to your hand, otherwise trash. So, and then get a permanent plus 1k on all turns is very solid for inheritable too. Like it looks like it does nothing. Like a 1k doesn't do a lot, but on both turns, it's pretty impactful a lot of the time. And then lastly, we have Dark-Knightmon, and I do like this. The older Dark-Knightmon, I think, was a little bit clunky. I think you can still use it if you want to. I wasn't a big fan of it, and this is very strong in the fact that it's another card, another Dark-Knightmon that you can Digicross with too. So it costs 8, Digicross of -2, which means you can play this for 4 if you have the Digicross requirements. On play, one of your Digimon gains blocker until the end of your opponent's turn, and then if Digicrossing, de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. So being able to have a de-Digivolve for 1, I think is great, or for 4 is great, and can set your opponent back a little bit. And also on deletion, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, add 1 card with Blue Flare and Twilight from them, and then trash the rest. So you unfortunately don't get to play a Skull Knight or Deadly Axe with this, which would have been really strong in a lot of ways. I think that was something that was really strong about the other Dark-Knightmon level 5, and I think that one is still better in general, but it is a strong effect still. It's a good card. You still want it for the archetype. And also the inheritable opponent's turn once per turn, when one of your opponent's Digimon attacks, if this Digimon is GreyKnightsmon, you may switch the target of the attack to this Digimon. So it just means you have blocker without having blocker, which is nice, which means you can be suspended, which means you can be stunned from blocking, and you still get the redirect, and that's very good. So you can help with that. And you also have like an on deletion with the GreyKnightsmon, which we'll just talk about now. So here's pretty much the dual support for everything. We have this big GreyKnightsmon here. It's a 12 cost. It's Digivolve for 5. I wish it was like a reduced on top of a either a Metal Greymon or a Dark-Knightmon for even 4, but it's what it is. On play, Digivolve for 1, and one of your opponent's Digimon, then all of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon can't attack until the end of your opponent's turn. So you get like a bit of a stun with this too. You have to play it for 8 at best cost. It's with a blue Metal Greymon and a Dark-Knightmon, so Digicross for 2 for each, that goes down to 8. It will have blocker if you use the new Knightmon, which is nice. And then also, all turns when this Digimon will be deleted are returned to its owner's hand. You may play 1 Metal Grey and 1 Dark-Knightmon from this Digimon's Devolution cards without paying their memory cost. So being able to do that, I think, is pretty strong in a lot of ways. Being able to play a level 5, which generally they have effects too. So for example, the new ones, you get to get a blocker and de-Digivolve. If you get this Dark-Knightmon, and the other one, you get to rush, and then you can decide to Digicross as well. Either one can Digicross in its own way too. So that's good. And then also we have Kuriha and Nene. This card and Tamer is also treated as just Kuriha and just Nene. So a lot of cards specify only one of them. So being able to be either one independently is really important. If it was just named Kuriha and Nene combined, we'd have a lot of issues where we wouldn't get the support we'd want from it. So being able to do that is good. It sets your memory to, if there are 2 or more Digimon in play, you get to gain 1 memory, so it's a little bit tough to do this at times, but if you're able to get that off, it's very good. And also all turns when you would play 1 Digimon card with Blue Flare are Twilight and its traits and Digicross requirements. By suspending this Tamer, you may place 1 card from under your Tamer and 1 card from your trash as devolution cards for this Digicross. So it's all turns as well, which means that obviously GreyKnightsmon is going to potentially get deleted on your opponent's turn, which means that you're able to play your guys, and you can use the Kuriha and Nene to Digicross from there, which I think is good. So there's that. And then last card we want to talk about, it's kind of a dud, but it's Dark Meldramon. It's a neat card. I wish it had, like, if this card had like Twilight and Blue Flare in its types, it would have been great. I don't really know the lore for it, but it just feels like a weird card that just doesn't fit into the archetype most of the time. But it does have a your turns. This Digimon and all Digimon with Knightmon or Knightsmon in its name can't be blocked. So that's neat. But I don't think we have room for this card, unfortunately. But I did want to mention it because it was kind of part of the archetype in a lot of ways. So that's pretty much all the new cards, and let's go into our deck list. Going on into our deck list, we're going to start off with the Blue Flare one, and not a lot of change for this. Blue Flare, I think, is doing pretty okay in BT12. It does get some tops occasionally as it is, and as I was saying over in the card overview, just being able to focus solely on the Metal Greymon archetype and line, and being able to say, oh, now I have 7 Blue Greymons in the build, that's fantastic, and also 7 Male Bergermons, I think that's awesome too. I think the original ones are still a little bit better for what they are, so you just run 3 of the other ones, but again, having jamming underneath it is pretty good if you want to be more aggressive. Being able to draw a card off this one too, even though like the restand is great, it also means that you don't have to feel bad about your opponent having less than 2 Digimon out. You can still get some good plays and get some good advantage without them having to have that kind of there. So we're still using 4 of the older one, 2 of the newer one, and then we are running the small Decker package, just because Decker can get a lot of card draw and can help us out there as well. Decker Greymon can get some stun if needed, and the Cyber Greymon, Metal Greymon Cyber Launch is good too, especially since it counts as both, which can be important for doing the Digicross here. So I think that's it's pretty understood. This also just can Digivolve up your chain if you want like a big stack there, and then kind of like the Z Greymon at the top if you want to. Running 4 of the new Tamer, 3 of the old one. If you want 4 and 3 on the other side, we can do that too. This one, being able to set your memory to 3 is great, but this can get you more apparent, like essentially. So, and also can Digicross from the trash. It doesn't care that it's not like the Twilight half of it. You can still Digicross from the trash, which is very good in this. There's so many ways, like when you just run out of pieces for Digicross, it's good there. So, but also the Blazing Memboost can find either of these tamers. So being able to have now 7 cards you can search for with this just means it's exponentially better. It's a very good card now that we have more targets for this to hit. So there's that. We're choosing Wanyamon just because we're going to have tamers in play more often, I think in this build too, specifically blue ones. And I did also want to mention real quick, there is like a little bit more of a cheese build with the Kuzumon. Essentially, when Digivolving, you can play an option card with a cost of 5 or less from your hand without paying its cost, and then when you use an option card, once per turn your turn with a cost of 2 or more, you can play a Taomon, or level 4 or lower yellow or blue Digimon from this card's devolution sources without paying the cost. So being able to use the card to play like a Greymon, which then you're able to use to get some more card draw, Decodramon to get some more draw, or even like the male Bergermon to get like the stun on something, I think is very good. So this is something to consider going into, especially since you can play it to play Blazing Memory Boost, which can find you tamers, can draw you more cards, and be set up for next turn. I think that's good. And we saw this a little bit in North America already in BT12, but you can be running Kaiser Nail too, which can, there are some ways to put like Superior Mode and tuck it underneath like your Decker Greymon, and then use that to, the Kaiser Nail to play this from underneath and get like a good effect from there. So in general, I think there's some cheese stuff if you want to still do some like blue flare with cross art stuff too, and just like this Kuzumon is just very good. So that's the list for blue flare, and then going into the Dark-Knightmon build here. And again, Dark-Knightmon's been okay, I think, in the BT12 meta. I think it is missing a little bit of consistency. I'm not sure if it needs to be more defensive or more aggressive, because there are a lot of ways for it to build a lot of advantage, but I think it's just kind of an okay spot as it is. So we do have the Doraemon, which is fantastic for this deck, being able to be a security that at the end of battle reveal the top card of your deck. It's a black Digimon with a play cost of 4 or less. You can play it without paying its memory cost, and then add the remaining to your hand. This can get Mighty Axe Mode, this can get Skull Knight, this can get the Skull Knight Cavalier, this can get the any of the Skull Knights. Any of the Skull Knights or any rookies is fantastic. So easy for you to get a blocker in play because of it too, because the Nene does give blocker to cards with Twilight in their traits are Dark-Knightmon in their name. So this can help you out in a lot of ways, and very strong in there. So I'll also rank Shikurimon, Chumon, and Monimon as well, because this is a rookie with a good on play, and the Twilight trait as well. We are running the new cards as well, and we're choosing 3 Nenes and 3 of the Nene and Kuriha. If you want to run the Kuriha itself, you can, and you can also kind of get some blue options if you want to. Setting your memory to 3 every turn can be very helpful, and you just don't have like anything that saves for this. All your Digicrossing goes into the trash, so it's a little bit harder for that, and it's really helpful for this as well to be able to get your cards back and recycle them. So I think that's good. We're playing 4 of the older BT10 Dark-Knightmon because I still think it's a little bit better. Playing 2 of the new one, and then also 2 of the Dark-Knightmon X Antibody, since it can get some good recycle value and help you out there, and can also sometimes just swing for a game, as well as the Death-X-Mon to help you there. And I think Immortal Ruler is a bit better in this deck as well, especially since we have a couple more Dark-Knightmons, and both of them have some good on-play abilities. Being able to go from there, it's just very good. So I think this Immortal Ruler is better with the fact that the EX04 Dark-Knightmon exists. So we're going to Monimon. You can play Upamon if you want to. I think that's not a bad card either. But this is this build. And again, like I think every card in this deck has Twilight out except Death-X-Mon and our rookies and our Pride Memory Boost. So we're gonna get the card draw on the On Deletion for this fairly often. I think you're gonna see it very, very, very often. So that is that build. And finally, the combination build. And I'll say this is definitely a jankier build than most. I think this is and not one that I've had a lot of practice with, to be honest. So results may vary for this one. But if they made the whole thing and the whole archetype to work together, I gotta at least try it a little bit. So we're playing with the blue base, just the fact that we want to make sure that we can get all of our cards there and help you out there. And so we're playing the 2 Galsmon, which Galsmon being able to play your 4-drops is pretty good in a lot of ways too. So that can help you out with that. We also have this Galsmon too, which being able to just get some cycle and get some Digicross requirements back to your hand. So that's also why we're playing this Skull Knight Mighty Axe mode. I think this card is really good, and the fact that it does have Digicross requirements and it's a level 4 can be a little bit more important. So I might bump this up a little bit more, and since it also counts as both names, it can help you for that too. You can't Digivolve in the back, but that's not something this deck does very often either. And then we have a whopping 11 level 5s because of all of the Digicross requirements there. Again, we do get a good amount of recycling. And then the Dark Knight X, and then 2 of the GreyKnightsmons, which again can be expensive. You can Digivolve it for 5 on top of a Dark Knightmon or a Metal Greymon. I don't think it's great to do that, but you can sometimes do that. It just is a big body for 5. If you do it, you definitely want it with the Dark Knight, so you can have the redirect, and then you can pop it back out and get like the Digivolve with the Digicross, which is nice. But it's a weird deck. It's definitely a weird kind of mix between the two, and sometimes that does mean you can brick, unfortunately. Well, we also are running 2 Nenes and 4 of the Kriha and Nenes as well, mostly because we want to be able to play off the deadly, or the Skull Knightmon, as well as the Blazing Memboost can find these. If you don't like Nene, you can definitely put Kriha as well. I think that's not a terrible choice. That's just my choice for it, and you can go that, especially since this doesn't overlap. Even though it's a 4-tamer, you can get, this, you can somewhat consistently start at 4 memory, which means that you can go into a Dark Knightmon and keep your turn, which is great, or go into a Metal Greymon and keep your turn, which obviously for 3 you can do that. But also if you start at 3, that means it's really easy to push your opponent to 1 by going into a Dark Knightmon if you're able to do that. So obviously this deck is very thin on space. We have a bunch of we don't have a lot of rookies, but we do have a bunch of level 4s that we don't mind just playing outright, which is nice. And Blazing Memboost for 5 is not terrible, especially because we get the memory back. So this is this build. It probably needs some ratio changes, and it's a very, very tight deck list because we're putting 2 engines together into one list. But it's very fun. It's very charming. It's a very charming deck. So anyways, that is that one, and that's going to be this video for you guys today. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys give both these decks a shot, and then maybe this third one if you're feeling really crazy about it. But both these are very fun archetypes. I really do like them, and I'm happy they got some support in EX4. So that's going to be it for me. Let me know if you want me to go over any other deck lists before EX4 drops in, like, again, a week. It's really rapidly approaching on us, but that's going to be it for me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.